RealAg Live, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in and being a part of today's show. I'm your host, Shaun Haney. It is Tuesday already. That's because it was a long weekend in Canada. I'm a big fan of long weekends being on the Friday instead of the Monday. It really jams up this week. I woke up this morning thinking, oh, there's no live broadcast today. Oh, wait a minute. It is Tuesday. So thanks a lot for tuning in today. We got a great one for you. Lots to discuss in the area of ag technology. Really looking forward to it. If you have a question at all for today's guest, what I encourage you to do is put a comment in the comment box below, right? So whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, maybe even Twitch, well, you can ask your question there. I'll see it in my panel, and I'll make sure we get to as many of them as we possibly can. You know, there's a lot of companies that are really focused in this area of precision ag, and precision ag really has a very wide definition. One of the leaders in the market for sure is Climate FieldView, and we're going to talk today to Denise Hockaday. She runs Climate FieldView for the whole entire country of Canada. I'm looking forward to today's discussion. Let's bring in today's guest. It is Denise Hockaday. Denise, how are you?
Hey, good afternoon. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, it's great to chat with you. Glad you could be here. Really looking forward to this. So, Denise, we're going to get into a bunch of the stuff that Climate FieldView is doing, but I guess off the top, talk a little bit about yourself. Give us some of your background. You grew up on a dairy farm in Ontario, correct?
I did. Yep. Born and raised. And so part of being part of that farm was that we all worked on the farm. And so I got lots of good experience there that really grounds me. But then, I always I also worked off the farm through high school, and that got me exposed to small business owners and different businesses. So I was really interested in business as well. And so I tried to combine both passions at school with agriculture business. And I am one of the fortunate ones that gets to work doing the thing that I went to school for and enjoy it every day.
Yeah, and if you think back to growing up on that dairy farm, probably the technology that wasn't, not only that you didn't use, but that wasn't available at that time versus where we are today. Even forget about agriculture, just even in the mainstream, how far we've come in such a short period of time. It really does, it just blows you away when you really sit down and think about it.
It does. It does. When I think about how we used to milk cows and look after things compared to what, a dairy farmer can use today, or if someone in the field can do today, for sure. And I feel like I also had a unique experience in my generation, being, someone that when we first got a computer as a family, we were still writing the code in the computer to run it. I was learning run commands, and I was learning, and then you got your 5.25 floppy disk, 3.5, all those fun things. Like I think I played the original Sim City back in the day. Nothing like the Sims today, right? Yeah. And but now I've gotten to see it, evolve to where it is today, and it's pretty unique.
Well, and we're not going to talk really specifically about dairy today, but when I think of technology on the farm, I often in speeches I use dairy as an example. Right, because broadacre farmers right now are talking a lot about, could we see autonomous tractors and could we see robotics? And then I think, well, dairy farmers just must listen to some of these conversations and be like, we've been using robots for years, you slow broadacre people. But it really is true. Dairy has really led a lot of the technology charge in Canada.
For sure. Not only with, say, robotic milking, but, AI technology and appearance technology to be able to recognize the cows, for sure.
So, Denise, you've had a very, very interesting career in the standpoint you've seen the opportunity of selling or providing services or products to farmers from numerous angles. And before you jumped over to climate, you were running the DeKalb business in Canada. What are some of the similarities and differences between selling in some ways like a tangible product? Like I buy a bag of corn, I buy a bag of canola, I have it, it's loaded on my truck, it's on the pallet, it's on the skid. I know it's tangible to me. What are some of the differences or similarities in selling technology to growers? Because they look at it differently.
For sure. Lots of similarities, but then a lot of differences that force you to think about things a little bit differently. And so, I've been fortunate to do both, launching new, say, seed products through the Cal brand, but also new biotech products. I joined the company in early time when we were launching, the very first double stack technology, which is crazy to think that long ago. And one of the big differences is when you think about those types of the biotech, I'll use an insect protected product, for example. It works when you don't have the bug infestations. It works when you kill the bugs that you're trying to target. When it's technology, though, and you're thinking about data, the outcome is a little bit more nuanced. So, you might not just be looking to kill a bug or protect a product or seed product from an insect. You are looking for an answer to something, or you might be looking for an answer to something you didn't even know you had a question about. And so, while the one is very tangible, the other is very intangible, and it's not always instantaneously realized either. So it might take a little bit longer to discover the benefits of a technology. I also think that we've also been trained kind of as consumers about how to expect technology to work, and how we might integrate it into our lives. And so that usually just makes you think a little bit differently about how you might present an opportunity, or present the benefits to a prospective customer.
You actually brought up something at the end there I never really thought of when I thought of that question, which was when I would imagine that when a technology, there's more pressure to make sure it works with technology, because people give up on something quicker when they don't necessarily have an understanding about how it works. Like, it just doesn't work. Whereas, maybe with a variety, it's like, oh yeah, but it didn't rain. I'll try it again next year. I would imagine that is one of the big differences with technology. You got to make sure it works.
For sure. And a big part of the FieldView platform is putting it to work while you're getting to work. And so, when things are busy and you're in spring and you're trying to get seeding or planting and you just need everything to go right then, because that's the time to go, you do need it to work. And that's actually something that we talk about a lot with our entire, I would say, climate team, engineers, people in science, because they, being the back end developers, coders, whoever, they need to also understand that, because they're not necessarily sitting on the farm at the same time that our customers are.
So how do you prevent, like, when you're coming up with some of the ideas and like the functionality, how do you sort of balance that would be super cool if we could do that, versus like the usability, right? Because software can be cumbersome if not designed properly, and the user experience is just so critical. So how do you balance all that within the team of creators?
Yeah, for sure. It is a balance, for sure. That's a really good word. So I would say user feedback and a lot of collaboration with customers is something that's high, very, very high on the priority list. And having those people work with what I would call our user experience or customer design team, to be able to make sure that the things that we're doing that are so complex in the background are still really easy from a usability perspective, or being able to understand it perspective. So I would say a lot of collaboration with customers to see what they'd like to have, and then see how it can be presented and used in a really kind of easy to use manner.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
No, I would think not, because there's probably a little bit too where it's like, okay, yeah, that's a great idea. That's super cool. It probably is usable for 0.5% of our users. So therefore, we're not going to proceed. Like, it's a great idea, and it would be a really great story to be able to tell people we could do that, but it's not a fit for the bulk of the users. So therefore, we have to, we're not going to do it. It's like those kinds of conversations, I would imagine too.
They do, but one of the benefits of being what I would consider a global business, because we operate in many different parts of the world, is that maybe if there's something that you're describing that is beneficial, like you said, to 0.5% of maybe the Canadian population, it could be relevant and something that is needed by 50% of the population in EMEA, or 75% in Latin America or other places, say of the U.S. And so one of the things that I do is I sit on a global team where we discuss what these what these ask priorities are, and we try to bring them all in, and just ultimately at the end of the day bring value to the customers that are using FieldView.
So how much do you get to collaborate with some of those global partners, like where you sort of learn from what's working and what's not working in some other countries with the platform? How does that collaboration work?
Yeah, no, every day. So earlier today, I was on our global
Mm.
team meeting. So I sit on a team with others from around the world, and so whether we have our regular meetings or just other collaborations that we look to do one on one, it's very accessible in this virtual world, as you know it. As long as we stay within a reasonable time zone, we can meet.
Well, I was just going to ask you who wins the time zone work. It's a lot of times when we talk to executives, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, I had a conference call like 3 in the morning." So you were lucky enough that it was in the Eastern time zone.
Yeah, it was. Usually, I'll be the first to put up my hand to say I'll meet early, so it's not terribly late in the day over in Europe. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I know one of the things you're really focused on are partners.
Mhm.
Talk about what does that word actually mean?
Yeah. So when we think about partners from a field view perspective, we think about other businesses that may have areas of specialty. They have a niche product offering, or something that maybe we're not offering within field view, but the information that is generated is very beneficial to have kind of visible and available in conjunction with the kind of the rest of their information. So I'll use an example. Today we have partners in kind of on-demand high resolution imagery. That would be drone partners. And so when you get a drone image on its own, while it may provide some insight, that information is much more valuable when it's brought into the FieldView platform and seen alongside with the rest of your information about that field. So you might look at an application timing, or you might look at what was applied, or seeding time, or rainfall, and really be looking at that in comparison with that drone image. A different area of partnership could be with a retailer or a dealer. So, for example, we just recently made an announcement with Winfield United,
Oh,
and so just one. There's many, but in that case too, customers that are working with a Winfield United location may want to have an ability to have their information from FieldView be shared with the Winfield platform as well. And so that would be another partnership where we enable an API. It's all at the control of the farmer at the end of the day, but really being able to share that information to get the most use and benefit out of it.
how many different partners would you have in the country? Is like what ballpark?
Yeah, we have well over 65 partners
Oh wow.
globally. And a lot of them are relevant here in North America and a lot in Canada. So I would say well over half of them are relevant here in Canada as well.
Okay, and a part of that platform partners is the farmer's ability to utilize the sharing feature in the platform. And I talked to one of your colleagues last week on RealAg Radio about this. Very, very cool because I think a lot of times, we collect the data, we have it, we look at it, but we have external people that we're working with on the farm all the time that we want to be able to share that with. And it's easier if we can just do it digitally than having to obviously print out a PDF document that's like 500 pages long and is in color, and I have to buy a new printer every time I want to share it with anybody. How does the sharing work?
Yeah, so the sharing, there's a portal that we have created within FieldView that we've made it as easy as possible to get to and share with somebody. And literally, you just go in, and you have a climate account. Shaun, I would just type in your email address, and I would share with you. Now, when it comes to sharing, there's a subset of things that I can choose to share with you. I might choose to share a field with you. I might choose to share one of my farms with you if I have multiple farms. And I might choose only to share, all of my information except for maybe the performance, like yield, for example. And those sorts of things. But there's different levels of control and sharing that you can do as a customer.
Now, is that only on the output, or is that also included in the input? Like my retailer, for example, does soil sampling for me. Is that stuff, can I share on the input side as well? Because I hate inputting information. So can I share in the input side as well?
Yes. So you can have those partners bring in that information for you as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
just
Actually, I was remembering you did an interview with Deb Campbell
yeah.
earlier this year, and she was actually referencing this. You know, as people are collecting information, it's one of the places that she goes to for for her customers to be able to monitor on their behalf, and it makes it really efficient for her, you know, as an advisor to her customers because. Yeah, the visibility makes her do her job better.
Yeah, I remember her saying that for sure. Yeah, and the other cool part too is that if say I was going to share it with Deb, she's a great agronomist. Deb's doing my agronomy work. It's not just like one toggle switch where just because I shared everything with Deb doesn't mean the other person that I may want to share some info with, they don't get all of the like it's set by individual person, correct? Not everybody has the
Exactly.
same security clearance.
No, nope, nope. You get to choose how you'd like that to be.
Well, that's beneficial. I could see that
It is.
really helping because maybe I even think within a farm. Like so what happens a lot of times is we gotta get involved in this precision ag thing, and so mom or dad hands it off to the youngest kid that came back to the farm, and they're managing it. They're going to want to share some of that information even within their own farm, depending on how they're using it. So I see that having a lot of benefit even in that way. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure. But both from a sharing, I'll say with the farm team, both the home farm team and also
Yeah.
those that you hire to be part of your farm team. But I think the other piece that we'll start to see more and more now that farms are kind of collecting and storing information is that then that information and knowledge can be transferred, I'll say, down through generations, because otherwise it's a little bit like you said. So as that kind of responsibility, gets handed down, all that knowledge that has been stored up in someone's head or brain for a number of years needs to get out if it hasn't been recorded elsewhere and be transferred down. And it would be, so much better, maybe for the person that's taking over the farm from a knowledge, sustainability perspective. All of those things will help that next generation be as best as they can be.
So you mean having it all written on loose pieces of paper, and then you unroll the window, driving 50 miles an hour down the road, and it all blows out? That's oh, okay. That's not good. Yeah, been there.
That might not help.
Been there. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, been there. What
Yeah.
now? What notebook did I write that in? It's one of these notebooks that's in this drawer. Yeah, we've all been there.
Yes.
You did mention ownership of data before, but it's such a critical part of all these discussions about precision ag because I believe farmers want to know that the data is theirs. I think we should go back to that and kind of reinforce where you stand on that.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you're bringing this up because it is really, really important. And I would say in this space of data science and farm or ag technology that's coming out, it can raise a lot of questions. And I think as farmers and as customers, you need to be prudent in understanding what those privacy policies say. And ours, we're very loud and clear about in that the information that a customer or farmer brings to the platform is their data. They own that, and we don't assume ownership of it at all. And for that reason, that also puts them in the driver's seat or control of who they may share it with. They can share with whomever they like, whenever they like. And they can also say, you know what, I don't want to share anymore, and I can revoke that. And they're in complete control of being able to do that. And then we've also had requests, sometimes someone wants to move it out of FieldView and bring it into another platform as well. And so we've made provisions available for people to be able to do that as well. So no, we're pretty clear about that ownership.
Oh, cool. So, Denise, how do customers connect their climate partner accounts with their FieldView accounts? How does that work to allow that data to go back and forth? How do you make sure that works?
Yes. So actually, one of the first and foremost things that we discuss when we have a meeting with a potential platform partner is that there is governance and a place for consent for that customer to be able to provide consent. And so one of the things that we have enabled is something you may have used different apps, and they say, well, you want to log in with Facebook or do you want to log in with Google? Well, there's a login with FieldView opportunity that helps provide that consent and then thus create the connection, which again can be revoked at any time, but it does provide that opportunity so that the customer knows what they're logging into and the types of information that would be shared with the partner that they would want to have it shared with.
For some reason, I just thought of my kids and TikTok and wanting to. Would they be able to bring their TikTok videos into the platform? I don't even want to. We won't even go there.
We don't have a platform partnership with
No.
TikTok.
Okay. Yeah. You might want to hold off. There's stuff going on. Yeah, you just may want to hold off on that one, Denise. So I'll just give you a tip on that one. I just totally lost my train of thought. What if my next question was going to be? I do have a question here from Lara. Her question is, she was looking at the website. She noticed that yield can be predicted based on many factors, including soil. How does Climate FieldView factor in so much potential variability in soils across Canada?
Yes. So I would say this is a space we're very much looking to understand, and it really depends on whether we can actually bring that soil information in, if it's in a format that can be brought in, and then be able to look at the correlation or look at the impact. If we don't have that soil layer, then it's harder to do that. But I agree very much. There's an impact on the soil that you're working with, and the impact that it can have on yield. I think the whole premise of why climate even exists is because I talked earlier about biotechnology and understand biotechnology, understand breeding and marker system breeding and bringing better genetics. But there's this space that is kind of unknown, and it's all those other environmental factors, including soil, that have an impact on the performance of the crop at the end of the day. And so that's where data science comes in, because you're trying to uncover what are those things. And unfortunately, it's not very easy, which is why no one has entirely cracked the code on it. But that's what we're endeavoring to do. So I don't have all that exact answer for you, Laura, but that's the space.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but the soil data, like in the U.S., is so much more dense and prevalent and available than in Canada. Does it make it easier in the Corn Belt to do some of those things?
To a degree, yes. So there are what are called Sergo soil layers that's based on a survey that was done, mind you, a long time ago now. So some would argue that there's certain changes within the soil layers, but that is something that it doesn't really exist in Canada today, or quite frankly around the world.
Yeah, and that's one of the things with some of the. Like we see these, last week we had the crop tour that went on in Western Canada here with FarmLink. Obviously, like Farm Journal's Pro Farmer crop tours coming up here in a couple of weeks. There's all these yield estimation tours. Stats Canada has incorporated now some satellite into some of their prediction of yield. We're kind of inching closer to where these two worlds on technology from a yield forecast and the human eye, we're getting closer to where they're a little bit meshed together, at least a little bit, and we're comparing notes.
Yeah, I would say so for sure. So there's a lot, that needs to also evolve from a technology perspective. Today, even for example, if you don't have a yield monitor, but the yield of the field, and we can combine that with our imagery and different things to actually provide a yield map for you. So be able to create that using satellite imagery. I would also say that technology from a satellite perspective is also improving. And so as we, gain access, globally to higher resolution satellites, that will also help take that to the next level when you can get closer to the ground, higher resolution, and then be able to really get that imagery detection in a good spot.
Yeah. Now you mentioned drones earlier, and you just said satellites. Is that where are we at with that debate? I've done a few videos and interviews on that one. Is it an either or is it both?
Yeah, in my opinion, it's not either or. I would say that it's both. And when we have conversations with our drone imagery partners, but also customers, you're going to get a satellite image anytime the satellite is going over. Oh, I do this because it's around the globe. So anytime that it can capture, it's flying around the world, it can capture an image it's not at night, right? There aren't big clouds over it. Then we'll capture an image and we'll provide that within 48 hours. But you don't get that might mean when it passes your field, it's at night, and so you're not going to get an image. And so sometimes you also have this need, whether it be for crop staging or maybe you're looking for a flea beetle infestation or something, or flowering timing, say in canola from a fungicide application. You need to know that information right away, and that's the high resolution imagery that can be provided by the drone partners is really, really important in those instances.
So earlier you gave the example of wanting to share some of the information with an agronomist like Deb Campbell or Peter Johnson or whatever agronomist you're using. Can you give us some other examples of how some clients are using the sharing feature and who they're sharing it with? Just provide a little bit more context on that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, someone like a Deb Campbell is an agronomist for sure. Others might be sharing it with others on I'll say their farm team or their farm operation team, so that they have access to be able to provide. There's a full scouting functionality within FieldView, and you may have someone on the farm team that's doing that scouting, and they need to populate that information into the account. That could be the case. You might be working with a local retailer or a dealer that's partnering with you, that's part of your farm team. You may want to share your account with them. You may need to provide some information to your finance partner to help them understand, what your performance has been, or maybe where you're expecting it to be based on what you can see in your account, and you may want to share that information with them as well. So a number of different ways and reasons to be able to share that information. Another one actually that comes up is prospective buyers. If you're growing an identity preserved crop or some sort of specialty crop, or something that's under contract, and you need to actually be able to provide either whatever was applied, when it was applied, where it was applied, all those things, all those pieces of information that maybe you otherwise kept in your pocket notebook. If you have it all captured in FieldView, then you can share it really, really easily and provide that information for your market.
Well, this is a high-tech show. We've had guests use Post-it notes with graphs on them as examples of visual examples. This is super high-tech. So, yeah. So I was, we've seen an evolution here in a pretty quick amount of time in terms of like when products like FieldView first came out, they were sort of like it was something that was sort of operating on the side, right? It was like, I gave the example of, you give it to the youngest kid on the farm and you look after this. They said we got to do this, you should do it. But I think as we're getting, manufacturers like yourself are focused more on usability and really trying to incorporate it into, you got the sharing stuff. It's becoming a little bit more of like a part of the core operation, similar to like how manufacturers would use like an SAP ERP pro, like that is like fundamental to the operation of the business. And I kind of see these platforms like FieldView being similar to that, just are how we look at them and where they fit into the farm. Mm-hmm. Is that fair? Has that change happened, or is it in the process of happening?
I do believe so. Maybe it's not everywhere, but it definitely is. It seems to be going that way. I would say that the more that customers are using FieldView, they come to that aha moment themselves. I think, okay, well, now I can use it for this or this. Oh, I never thought about using it for that. So that really that starts to play in there. I think the other piece that is also driving that will also drive this from an ag industry perspective is just the demands that consumers are placing on agriculture. So I want to understand where my food came from, the food that I'm eating today, what happened to it before it got to my plate. And so this notion of, dare I say, traceability, or just, an understanding that can be presented by the customer. So I think, so the farmer is going to be asked more and more of those questions. That as well as, to other regulations. So we do see, in Europe, for example, a highly regulated area where both what gets applied to the field has to have a prescription, and then it's monitored and audited, and it has to be reported back from a compliance perspective. And so, mechanisms like using FieldView as a mechanism to be able to provide that information becomes really, really important. And we don't see that across all of Canada today, but we definitely see it in different places and creeping in different ways.
Got a DM on Twitter here from Lonnie wanting to know if he can share his FieldView data with crop insurance. I'm not sure which province he's in, but
yes. So right now, we don't necessarily have an API that would automatically have that shared. But one of the things that you can do, Lonnie, is at the end of the season, you can actually create a very quick PDF that summarizes everything that happened. That I know, for example, here in Ontario, the crop insurance, they will take those as crop insurance reports because it shares, the performance of the field, everything that happened in the field, and they'll accept that as the summary information.
Interesting. Is there a difference in when you have your global calls and you're talking about which, some of the cool features and directions and contrasting and comparing between countries? How does the implementation of products like FieldView in Canada differ from other countries, or are we just the same as everybody else? Do we look at these things, because we have different, you mentioned traceability earlier. Canada has in cattle has a traceability system that is very, very strong in comparison to some other countries. On this front, how do we compare?
Yeah, I would say depending on the place, I think Canada does a good job. Canada has always been an adopter of technology, and a big part of what enables us to be able to collect information here in Canada is having equipment that is able to do it as well. Both equipment that is able to apply a script, say if it's a chemistry application, or be able to read the information and have that type of monitoring equipment, which isn't necessarily the same in other places of the world. That being said, sometimes in Canada, we can define ourselves by the crops that we grow or the crops that we don't grow, and we compare that, around the world. I would say when we think about this context and a technology perspective, the crop is a little less relevant. It's more about how you manage your business and how you operate your business. And so I would say we have farms here in Canada that operate, some of them are similar to farms that operate in Ukraine, and other ones are similar to how they operate in Brazil. And then there are a number of them that operate similarly to farms in Italy and Midwest U.S. and in Argentina. And so it has more to do about kind of how you operate. We have, there's farm operators, and then there's, farm operators that have teams, and there are farm owners that don't leave the office, just depending on how their operation is set up. So that's probably, some of those use cases that we talk about more.
So Denise, I was snooping on your Twitter profile earlier, and I saw that you're a wine enthusiast. Have you been able to get FieldView out of some of those wineries? Like, you got. I'll take those accounts. I got the wineries. Is there some agriculture industries like wineries using things like FieldView?
I would say, first off, as a wine enthusiast, I'm by no means an expert. I just enjoy a glass every now and then when I try to relax.
You and me both.
And that's about it. With a good puzzle or a book. So yes and no, actually. So vineyards, if we think about vineyards, kind of in the West Coast US, a lot of them are using different technologies, whether it be robots or different things like that. There are some things in those technologies that are missing that are available in FieldView that it's being used in row crops today.
Huh.
And so we actually do have customers saying, how can we make this work? Not in row crops, but in wineries. But I would say it's not, it's not the main application today that folks are using.
Well, if you ever do want to focus on it, I volunteer to take those accounts. I will. Yeah.
We can partner on that.
I'll look. What's your favorite wine type or region?
I would say I am partial to the West Coast Cab Sav and some Australian Cab Savs, perhaps. Yeah,
Nice.
I'm not that fussy, really.
That was one of the best things during COVID. One of the positives, I guess. There's got to be some positive out of it, I guess, is in the social distancing. We're stuck at home. One of the local wine stores here every Friday night had a virtual tasting. So they would drop off 4 bottles at your house, and then they would do it through Facebook Live. And we did like all regions. We did it probably 8 weeks in a row. It was a blast. It was so much fun.
That does sound like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That's good. That's a good team building exercise too.
Yeah. Well, nothing brings people together like a couple bottles, a couple bottles of wine. Hey, one last question here. Question is, okay, it's a comment. Hard to get some of this tech to work for vertically grown crops. Hops is another one where all features wouldn't necessarily work. So now the my understanding is the platform started in the first customers were like in the Midwest. Whether I'm growing corn, beans, wheat, canola, pulses, that's the target market for the platform East and West, correct?
In Canada, for sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, if somebody wants more information on Climate FieldView, where do they go?
So our website, climatefieldview.ca, has all kinds of information. You can see the partners that I was referencing there. There's a tab at the top. Also links to support. So lots of questions and answers there if you have it, as well as we have a full video library there if you're looking for tips and tricks or you want to see how other people are using FieldView. And we just launched actually a series called Cab Chats. And so, as everybody knows, during COVID times, it's a little more difficult these days to get face-to-face with customers. And so, we've been able to be virtual and remotely work with customers so that they're safe, everyone's safe, but also still really, really effective. And so that's an example with Riley where he's talking to a digital integration specialist on how he's using it, but also an effective form of communication between people.
Yeah, Riley's a beauty. I actually saw that. That was pretty good. I like that cab chat. And with COVID going on, it's virtual. And I think one of the things with COVID is it's really focused a lot of agronomists to work remotely with their customers, right? Which has been kind of a new thing in agriculture. Like agriculture a lot of times refers to it as that, face-to-face business. It's the only, that's the only way to do business in agriculture is face-to-face. And we've faced some challenges here through COVID. I would think that something like Climate FieldView, a platform would assist agronomists in dealing with some of their, their farm customers in these sort of social distance times.
Yeah, for sure. We see that for sure in the context that if you think you can use the platform to be like a communication tool. So sharing that information with your trusted partner or your farm team really enables that ease and convenience of communication. You and I can be looking at the same thing at the same time and be, across the country, but have a productive conversation about, what's happening what's happening on the farm. And I was listening to Sandy Brock, and she talked about her farm team. So you interviewed Sandy,
Yep.
And she said most times when I'm communicating with my vet or others, I'm texting, I'm FaceTiming, and those sorts of things. And I agree with you that sometimes we think it has to be drive up the driveway or has to be face to face. And I think we're all learning things in agriculture right now during this time that maybe challenges some of those beliefs, and maybe we'll come out better on the other side with some new ideas and new ways.
So I'm always learning from the RealAg audience. It also speaks to the diversity of people that watch some of these shows. Eric makes the comment that he says, I don't know about vineyards, but I've got maple bush on FieldView. The early and late season satellite images make it really easy to see where I need to cut out the evergreens. So there you go.
There you go. New use case.
Something that I thought we wouldn't be talking about right there, cutting out the evergreens. Cool stuff. Thanks a lot, Eric. I appreciate you watching. Hey, Denise, this has been a lot of fun. I really do appreciate you joining us here today on RealAg Live.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, please, everybody, check out the website. Denise, what was the website again?
climatefieldview.ca.
Awesome stuff. That is Denise Hockaday with Climate Field View. Hey, I appreciate everybody tuning in today. Really, really do. We had a lot of fun. It was really great. If you have any questions, comments, feedback, we'd love to hear from you. Send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Or, of course, you can find us on Twitter and Instagram. The handle there is @realagriculture. Or, you know what, I just do this. Call the RealAg listener line. It's super easy. You dial 855-776-6147. You press the number 3 when it picks up, and you leave me a message that jumps right into my inbox. I love to hear from you. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Live, and we'll talk again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.